Home nothing. I'd like to try this thing just once. Come on, honey.
We'll show him a thing or three.
No one will agree completely with my ranking. All opinions are valid. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder. It would be great if, in the comments, you post your ranking 1 to 10, 1 being the best, and I will compile the viewers' choices. The criteria is based on the overall movie. You can find supporting videos of different levels of detail in the complete Fred and Ginger playlist. A link is at the end of this video. After Fred and Ginger's unexpected success in their first movie together, stealing the show and flying down to Rio, RKO knew they had a hit on their hands. After the shooting, Fred went to London to complete his final stage obligation, performing Gay Divorcee on the West End. Producer Pandro S Berman flew to London to see the show, and it became their second movie, The Gay Divorcee. This is a wonderful, charming movie. Their first movie as the leads nominated for Oscar Best Picture and winning the first Oscar Best Song for the Continental. Notice at the top of the poster, the King and Queen of the Carioca, their surprise hit dance from Flying Down to Rio. And, at least on this poster, Ginger had top billing for the last time. Fred did not want to do another movie with Ginger, for a variety of reasons, both valid and invalid, covered in detail in the Fred and Ginger documentary series. It's a good thing Berman refused, because together they would reach heights they rarely reached again. It started in earnest here. This first movie together set the pattern for many of their successful movies. Fred meets, falls for, and infuriates Ginger all in their first brief encounter. He chases after Ginger, getting nowhere until he sings to, and then dances with her, and she is enthralled. The dance, their first romantic ballroom dance, to Cole Porter's beautiful and popular Night and Day, is gorgeously choreographed and executed. Night and Day is more than just a beautiful dance. It is the second step in the Astaire revolution. In 1949, Fred received an honorary Oscar for his unique artistry and his contributions to the technique of musical pictures. Covered in depth in the documentary series, it was not just Fred's singing, dancing, and acting. Fred changed everything: the choreography, the music, the cinematography, the editing process, even how the grips worked, with the Astaire dolly improving camera movement to capture a flowing dance. He insisted dances be performed in as close to one continuous take as possible. He was the driving force, with his vision of what could be, of a level of perfection that has never been surpassed. Others copied his style and techniques, and Fred was more responsible for the upsurge in musicals in the mid-30s, the golden era of musicals, and beyond, than any other person. It started, in earnest, in this movie. Another common plotline in their series is introduced here, the clever mistaken identity scenario, here and hilariously done in Top Hat, or the misunderstood situation in Swing Time and Shall We Dance. Ginger is constantly justifiably infuriated, and Fred is hopelessly clueless or unable to defend himself. This presented quite a challenge for Ginger, who was to play the gorgeous object of Fred's obsession, while also snarling half the movie. Hell, they made Ginger furious with Fred at one point or another in every movie. And they figured out she played Mean Girl real well and utilized that, making Fred a very sympathetic character. She rose to the challenge, carried off her almost bipolar characters while remaining so attractive throughout, because she played sweet so convincingly also. After the partnership ended, time went by, and Fred performed with so many other partners, he came to truly appreciate Ginger's contributions. They were making movies, not dance videos, and while she could sing and dance, her most important contribution was her great acting. In his always gracious way, Fred said, "Ginger was brilliantly effective. She made everything work for her. Actually, she made things very fine for the both of us, and she deserves most of the credit for our success." Finally, almost all movies are enhanced by a solid core of character actors, and in most of their movies, starting here, they provide most of the comic relief. Horton, Brady, Rhodes, and Blore are great. The Gay Divorcee was produced by Pandro S Berman, directed by Mark Sandridge, songs by Matt Gordon and Harry Ravel, Herb Magnuson and Con Conrad, and Cole Porter, co-starring Alice Brady, Edward Everett Horton, Eric Rhodes, Eric Blore, and Betty Grable. The movie opens with Fred, a famous American dancer, and Horton, his lawyer pal, dining in a Parisian restaurant. They have both forgotten their wallets, so Fred has to dance for his dinner to "Don't Let It Bother You." Arriving in England, Fred comes across Ginger with her dress caught in a locked trunk. He offers to help, fetch her aunt, but then says an incredibly stupid line. A third party might spoil this. Then he rips her dress trying to free it. He lends her his overcoat and she storms away, justifiably furious. His coat is returned in the mail, but no note from Ginger. Fred is determined to find her, and Horton says no problem. There are only 3 million women in London. Fred sings and dances to "A Needle in a Haystack." Search he does, until he bumps his car into Ginger's. She takes off, and Fred chases, and finally traps Ginger's car. He offers her refreshments and marriage. Ginger is sarcastic, but hides how charmed she is. Fred adores her so. But something is holding her back. In the next scene, we find out what it is. Brady brings Ginger to her lawyer, who, of course, regardless of the 1 in 3 million odds, is Horton. Ginger is married, never sees her husband, and wants a divorce. To force the issue, Horton arranges a phony tryst at a resort between Ginger and a hired co-respondent. After weeks of not hearing from Ginger, Fred agrees to go with Horton to the resort. Here there is a charming little number where 17-year-old Betty Grable does a song and dance routine with Horton to "Let's Knock Knees." Talking with Horton, Fred uses a line from an act he was in. "Chance is a fool's name for fate," which Horton loves. When arranging the tryst for Ginger, Horton shows off by making that quote the password. Fred sees Ginger and chases her again, down to an empty rotunda. He charms Ginger singing the beautiful Night and Day to her, and they dance their first of a long series of gorgeous ballroom dances to the song. Ginger sits there overwhelmed, and in this age of Hays Code, Fred makes a sly reference, asking her if she wants a cigarette. Showing off, Fred uses the same quote, making Ginger believe he is the co-respondent. She arranges the tryst for midnight and furiously storms off. He doesn't have a clue, as became the norm. In her hotel room at midnight, Ginger is angry and defensive, leaving Fred befuddled. Brady comes in and tells Ginger another man, Rhodes, is mauling the quote downstairs. Ginger is now sweet, and Fred thinks she is nuts. Only when Rhodes enters the room do they resolve the confusion. Babysat by Rhodes, down on the dance floor the Continental begins to play. Now begins the 17.5-minute song and dance scene. At that time, very long song and dance scenes performed by a huge ensemble were common, but they outdid themselves with the longest ever at 17.5 minutes, until 1951's An American in Paris 18.5-minute ballet scene. Ginger is adorable singing this first Oscar Best song to Fred. They sneak out onto the dance floor and do a lively dance, half ballroom, half jazzy. Now the ensemble pours out onto the floor, and this goes on for a while. The song is sung again, hilariously, by Rhodes, and then again by Lillian Miles. Fred and Ginger hit the floor again, going through some varied dance styles. It is all too long for my taste. Large ensemble dancing bores me to death, but Fred and Ginger are great. The next morning, Ginger's husband surprises them, and instead of being furious, he says he will forgive her and refuses a divorce. Then Bloor, the waiter, reveals him as a bigamist, and Fred and Ginger live happily ever after with a nice closing dance. Please like and subscribe.